Hey guys, welcome back. I just wanted to start off by saying thank you guys so much for all the support. It's so appreciated. And if you guys are new here, if any of you are new here, um, go ahead and subscribe. If you've seen some of my other videos related to this topic, and just to get notification on when I post more videos. Just so I'm clear, most of my videos are based on personal experiences and I'm just documenting as I go along. And I do have two very young toddlers, so it is kind of hard to update regularly. Plus, I'm not used to this. So there is a lot of inconsistency on how often I post, but I'm trying as hard as I can to post as often as possible as things come up. Now, what I really want to talk about, which has already passed, but it just kind of still is lingering in my mind as far as how I want to address this. But we're going to talk about some of the things that's been going on in Atlanta, Georgia since COVID started. And just things that no one really talks about when they talk about Atlanta, Georgia. And just a few things. So the first thing that isn't really discussed that often when we're talking about Atlanta, Georgia is that people have the assumption that living in the South is cheaper than living in the North, as far as the cost of living. And for the most part, that is true. A lot has changed within the past few months. And so I just wanted to give you guys an update on how, because we know that the cost of living is going up everywhere with all the, stimulus checks and things like that. The cost of living, the cost of food, gas, water, things like that, utilities has went up. And I think we've all kind of noticed it, but just slightly, not too much. I just wanted to make you guys aware that when it comes to coming to Georgia for the basis of a cheaper cost of living, it really depends on what part of Georgia you live in. If you're coming to Atlanta, the prices are, I'm going to be completely honest, the prices are inflated. Especially if you live on the outskirts of Atlanta. It's still a little inflated. It's a little less, and this is a video where I'm pretty much going to try to encourage people not to move directly into Atlanta. You can still live close to Atlanta and have access to Atlanta without living in Atlanta. Atlanta has become a very expensive place to live. The average, let me see. I just want to bring the stats up before I start talking. Because I don't want to be off. So, based on my personal experiences, I did originally want to live in Atlanta when I came down here, but I've noticed that while looking at apartments in Atlanta, they were kind of expensive. So some of the apartments were like $2,000 for maybe a one bedroom or almost a two bedroom. And this is for the nicer parts of Atlanta, because you don't want to live in a crime ridden neighborhood of Atlanta. I mean, what would be the purpose, right? I mean, unless you have family down there and you have, an alliance there, and people down there and things like that, that's a different situation. But if you're new to Atlanta and you've never been here before, and this is your first time out here, you have to be very cautious about exactly where you're going to live. And so there are different parts of Atlanta, aka Fulton County. I know we say Atlanta a lot. People who are not from Georgia or people who are even from Georgia refer to Fulton County as Atlanta, but it's just Fulton County. And different parts of Fulton County, even some outside counties people consider to be a part of Atlanta. But most of these cities that people are referring to when they're talking about Atlanta, they're talking about Fulton County. So let me just make that clear, because that was something I was a little confused about when I first got there as well. It's Fulton County. All right. Now, the overall, if we're comparing, because the biggest comparison when people want to move down south is between Georgia and North Carolina. And right off the bat, I'm just going to say Georgia is expensive. Atlanta, Georgia is expensive for cost of living, because houses that used to be maybe $100,000 to $150,000 has risen all the way up to $200,000 and $250,000, and it could have something to do with the effects of COVID. Food and groceries have went up exponentially. They're actually pretty close to the national average. So even though it's below by a couple percent, like 2% or something like that, it's still relatively high. And then when we're talking about, utilities and all these other things, it's still kind of high. For Atlanta, the average cost of living is 107.5, but for Georgia as a whole, it's 93.4, and for the USA, it's 100. So the index is 7.5 more than the US average. That's the cost of living index. And we're talking about Atlanta versus Georgia, okay? All right. And the groceries for Atlanta is 98.8 for index. But for Georgia is 95.5. And that is below the national average, the USA average. And 98.8 is really close. That's for Atlanta. Now, in health, they're a little cheaper. Atlanta comes in at 91.8, and Georgia itself comes in at 95.5, and the average is 100. So there's that. Housing has 112 index, which is 12 points over the USA average, whereas Georgia has 80.7, which is 20 points under the US average. So this just gives you a pretty much of a perspective of what's going on. And like I said, with the medium home cost, this is on bestplaces.net, cost of living in Georgia, in the city of Atlanta. The medium home cost is $259,000 in Atlanta, $186,500 in Georgia, and the average is $231,200. I'm sorry. The $259,000 for the medium home cost in Atlanta is higher than the U.S. average. I want to make this clear, because I don't want anyone coming out here like, oh, it's going to be a good time. This is why Georgia doesn't really fall on the list when it comes to a preferred place for people to retire. Because when it comes to Atlanta, because Georgia itself, if you plan on living, in the country parts of Georgia, the issue where the challenge comes in at for retirees is that there's not a lot of medical services out there. And so they have initiated different types of programs for people in the medical field to be attracted to those areas so that they can acquire those type of services to be available to those residents in those areas. But as of now, I haven't really heard much about it. Now, Augusta was on that list of people who were struggling with medical services, but it seems like over the past few years that has ramped up. Utilities for Atlanta is 103.6. I'm just going to get back to the stats. For Georgia itself is 103.2, which is over the national average of 100. Transportation is 122.7. Georgia's is 105.1, and the USA is 100. So that's still over the national average, and that's transportation. Miscellaneous, we're not sure what that is, so I'm not going to talk about it, but it's under the national average for both Atlanta and Georgia. And so a few things that I wanted to discuss. Augusta is cheaper than Atlanta. Point blank period. That's it. I get a lot of questions about Augusta. I am going to visit there, I think next winter. So probably around January sometime. Just to hang out, see what's going on out there. I don't plan on moving out there. I prefer to stay where I'm at. I'm comfortable here. I'm relatively close to the city. And I didn't spend a lot for my house, so what would be the point? And so Augusta is cheaper than Atlanta. That's obvious. They also ramped up a lot of their services as medical services. That's cool. Their housing is relatively cheaper. It is countryer. If you could put it in layman's terms, there's not a lot of people like droving to Augusta, but Augusta is further north, which means the temperatures might be a little cooler in those areas. But when it's hot, it's hot. And there's a lot of bugs in Georgia in general. So keep that in mind. Macon, Georgia. I see a lot of videos about Macon, Georgia being quote unquote dangerous. Okay. Now, I want to advise people that there's different parts of Macon, Georgia. There's a nice side to it where there's like, big, beautiful houses with lots of land for a low price. And then there's the city, like the inner city of Macon, Georgia, where there's a high amount of crime. And so, of course, if you live outside of that city, you might get some crime streaming in here and there. But it's not Macon, Georgia, the inner city, and Macon, Georgia, the outskirts is not the same. And I want people to understand that, so they're not saying, oh, I'm going to stay away from that place. That's not the case. Give me 1 second. Savannah. See, I'm pointing out different places that people look into when it comes to Georgia. Savannah is like, if you like living off the coast, then that would probably be an ideal place for you. Savannah is changing a lot. Savannah used to be a very busy place, and it still is, but when I went to visit, you can check out my Tybee Island video. The link is at the top. I took like a little ride to go to Tybee Island to the beach. You can see what the beach looks like and things like that. But Savannah, Georgia has made a lot of improvement over the years. And so if you're thinking about moving there, there are other videos from other YouTubers talking about Savannah, Georgia as well. Look into those. It is a pretty busy place. The cost of living out there might be a little higher than Augusta, but it's pretty decent. If you are aware of what it's like to live near the coast, then I don't need to tell you this, but the weather is probably a little So expect it. For anyone who already lives off of the coast, you already know what I'm referring to. But just know that you may be required to pay flood insurance. So just keep that in mind. That's why I said the cost of living might be a little higher than Augusta, because Augusta is not directly off the coast, though it is northern Georgia. It is within that, I want to say, that hurricane arena area where there's tornadoes and hurricanes and things like that. But I think it's, as far as you requiring to have flood insurance, which is an extra cost, that may be higher. It may drive the cost of living up just a little bit for you when it comes to housing. So that's something to keep in mind. Albany, Georgia. I don't hear this a lot, but it is mentioned. Albany, Georgia is a wet place, period. So just want to make it plain and simple. It's relatively close to Florida, Jacksonville, Florida to be exact. So it's kind of close to the southern coast of America, right? Not really sure how close, but it's relatively close. They do get a lot of rain. I heard it's very wet down there, so that's that. period. But other than that, the crime is a little high. And then it's not crazy, but that's just something to keep in mind, that it rains a lot and the crime is a little up there. So it's not like a sanctuary. But it is, I heard it's pretty, aside from that, it's a pretty decent place to live. And then right under that is Thomasville. So those are just some places in Georgia to consider when you're moving down here that's outside of Atlanta, that may be decent. I've heard, what is it called? Stockbridge? Is it Stockbridge or Stockbridge? Stockbridge, I believe. I heard it's pretty decent to live out there. Douglasville is pretty dope. The cost of living is kind of close to Atlanta, but it's not crazy. And then you're 30 minutes from Atlanta, so that's not bad either. And if you are Black and you're listening to this, the population of Black people there are pretty high. Powder Springs is right next, somewhere near Douglasville. It's about 45 to 30 minutes from Atlanta. Relatively quiet, pretty decent schools. Based on personal experiences, I have friends who live out there, family friends, and they state that they love it out there. The schools are decent. It's very quiet, very family friendly. I have went out there to look at houses. Unfortunately, I did not get a house out there. I guess my expenses didn't allow me to do that. But there's some nice houses out there. Dallas, Georgia is pretty nice. That's another city in Georgia. Those two are in Paulding County, Paulding. So those places are pretty dope. I'm only making this video because I've noticed that the crime rate in Atlanta went up. And I think that's because a lot of people have moved into Atlanta from other places and other crime-stricken areas, including myself. I am from Philadelphia. That is a crime-stricken area. So a lot of people move out of these places so that they can find some peace. Unfortunately, the gangs move out as well. And other people who are violent move out here as well. Mass shooters move out here as well. Don't know why. People who traffic women and children, and sometimes even men, move out here as well. So because there's so many people here and it's such a rise of people coming in, I think it attracts criminals as well. And so just be aware of that, because it's the hustle and bustle of the city. And just like any city, you're going to have a lot of crime, especially when it's a city like Atlanta, Los Angeles, and things like that. It attracts a large amount of people due to its popularity and for many different reasons. The arts, music, entertainment in Atlanta is beautiful. It's a wonderful experience. Throughout COVID, they haven't really shut down because, I'm gonna be honest, Brian Kemp really doesn't give a so he waited until maybe like the last minute to put us on shutdown, and then when Keisha, the mayor of Atlanta, wanted to mandate masks, he said absolutely not. So he's not here for it. But I'm just giving you guys a list of places that you can live outside of Atlanta, because Atlanta is a very expensive place to live. I know you guys think, oh, well, because it's in the South, it's cheaper, but it's really not. Atlanta's really not cheaper. So if you do want to really genuinely live in a cheaper life and you're coming here for cost of living purposes, Atlanta probably wouldn't be your best option. But you can live places like Cobb County, where there's Marietta and Smyrna. Those are two very affluent Black neighborhoods. White people can live there, Asian people. Duluth is an awesome place if you're Asian. Godly. The resources, the restaurants, the street life, everything about Duluth International Markets to have availability to food that you love. It's a really Asian-based community. It's a very beautiful place to visit. It's kind of like a southern Chinatown, but it's pretty dope. So if you're Asian and you're watching this, Duluth is probably a good place for you. And it's not in Atlanta, but it's outside of Atlanta. I think it's about 30 minutes from Atlanta, give or take. So that's not bad. If you want to go into the city for entertainment, you can. It's 30 minutes away. if you have a lot of money and you want to spend more than what you have to spend for Atlanta, and you still want to live a luxurious life and you have a family, or if you don't have a family, Alphareta's pretty dope. All right. Sewanee is pretty dope. All right. So those places are relatively close to Atlanta. They're about 45 minutes to an hour. So it's a pretty long drive. But if you have the money, you have the resources, you work remote, or, you can find a job in Alpharetta, because there's a lot of places in Alpharetta that hire. So it's not like Atlanta's the only place that hires. That's another thing. Atlanta's a big city, but they're not always hiring. And so you're more than likely going to find a job outside of Fulton County. So there's that. So the surrounding cities that are relatively cheaper than Atlanta, that is about 30 to 45 minutes away from Atlanta, I want to say is DeKalb County, Gwinnett County, Cobb County, Douglas County, Carroll County, Coweta County, and Fayette County. Clayton County is close to. DeKalb County, the popular places is DeKalb County, Gwinnett County, Cobb County, and Douglas County. Those are the the 4 ones that are relatively close to Atlanta and are popular. So there's a lot of diversity there in those 4 locations. They're very close to Atlanta. The cost of living is cheaper, and the quality of life out there is better. I'm just going to be honest. Now, DeKalb County, you got to be a little careful. There's North Decatur and then there's South Decatur. I do think South Decatur is coming up. So if you're an investor, keep your eye there. But and Stone Mountain as well, I think they're coming up as well. So keep your eye there. But overall, these places are pretty decent places to live. Of course, you have to do your research when it comes to areas, because anywhere you live, you have to make sure that it fits your needs. All right. So that's it for today. I just wanted to give you guys an update on some of my findings when it came to Georgia. I've been getting a lot of questions about certain things, and I just wanted to kind of address it in this video. I hope this helps. I really do. If you need more information, or if you still had questions based on the information provided, go ahead, leave a comment. I check all my comments, and I'll, look into it. I'll drive somewhere if I have to. The next video I'm going to post is probably going to be about the playgrounds in Georgia. Beautiful. Most of them are in Gwinnett County because that's where I live. So if if anything, you have any questions about, Gwinnett County itself, give me a call. I mean, not give me a call. I wish. One day I'll go live and allow people to call in, but that's in due time. But go ahead and leave a comment if you have any questions about Gwinnett County. I'll try to contact you within the next 30 days. I promise. These toddlers are a mess. I have a full-time job. I work for the government, so it's very demanding. And as you know, the government is backed up. Low staffed, backed up. So I am trying the hardest I can to try to make myself available to do these things, but I have a lot of restrictions. I'm doing renovations on the house. I have toddlers. I work a full-time job. It's a lot going on over here. I'm under heavy water. So, another thing, Memorial Day just passed. I want to give a thanks to all the people who serve us, and a rest in peace or rest in heaven for all our military staff that are no longer with us. You are very greatly appreciated, and we honor your services. Thank you guys for listening, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.